How not to worry. A friend of mine asked me how not to worry about the cat, which had some mild symptoms of illness, but nothing that looked severe enough to take the cat to the veterinarian. She also thought the symptoms were so subtle that they might not be easy to describe to the vet, but still she worried. I finally said to her, "You must do something." "That's just the problem, there's nothing to do," she said. "Take some kind of action," I said. "Call the vet and talk to him." That doesn't make sense because the vet wouldn't know anything from what I told him, and he'd probably ask me to take her in to see him, and I know it's not that serious, she said. "Yes, I understand," I said, "but you should take the action for you, not for the car or the vet. By not doing anything, you're keeping yourself trapped in worrying." "Okay," she said. "I see what you mean." When she called the vet, to her surprise, the vet was able to make a good assessment of what was wrong. He recommended that she bring the cat in, and if it was what he thought it was, he could give her something to clear it up right away. Anything that worries you should be acted on, not just thought about. Don't be scared about the action, you can make it very small and easy, as long as you take an action. Even small actions will chase away your fears. Fear has a hard time coexisting with action. When there's action, there's no fear. When there's fear, there's no action. How to get what I want, how to get what I want. You've heard the expression, what you see is what you get. My grandfather used to say, if you look at a tree long enough, it will move. We see what you want to see. Psychologists tell us that nothing controls our life more than our self-image. We live like the person we see in the mirror. We are what we think we are. If you don't think you'll be successful, you won't. You can't be it if you can't see it. Your life is limited to your vision. If you want to change your life, you must change your vision of your life. How to get what I want. Arnold Schwarzenegger was not that famous in 1976 when he met with a newspaper reporter. The reporter asked Schwarzenegger, "Now that you've retired from bodybuilding, what do you plan to do next?" Schwarzenegger answered very calmly and confidently, "I'm going to be the #1 movie star in Hollywood." The reporter was shocked and amused at Schwarzenegger's plan. At that time, it was very hard to imagine how this muscle-bound bodybuilder, who was not a professional actor and who spoke poor English with a strong Austrian accent, could ever hope to be Hollywood's #1 movie star. So the reporter asked Schwarzenegger how he planned to make his dream come true. Schwarzenegger said, I'll do it the same way I became the #1 bodybuilder in the world. What I do was to create a vision of who I want to be. Then I start living like that person in my mind as if it were already true." Sounds almost childishly simple, doesn't it? But it worked. Schwarzenegger did become the #1 highest paid movie star in Hollywood. Remember, if you can see it, you can be it. A successful businessman I know wears a shirt with these words on it. Don't just pursue your dreams. Chase them down and tackle them. You only get one life to live, so why not live the best life possible? So you can be fully satisfied at what you see and get. Just think a minute. How would you like to be remembered? About 100 years ago, a man looked at the morning newspaper and to his surprise and horror, read his name in the obituary column. The newspapers had reported the death of the wrong person by mistake. His first response was shock. Am I here or there? When he regained his composure, his second thought was to find out what people had said about him. The obituary read, Dynamite King dies. And also, he was the merchant of death. This man was the inventor of dynamite, and when he read the words, Merchant of Death, he asked himself a question, is this how I am going to be remembered? He got in touch with his feelings and decided that this was not the way he wanted to be remembered. From that day on, he started working toward peace. His name was Alfred Nobel, and he is remembered today by the Great Nobel Prize. Just as Alfred Nobel got in touch with his feelings and redefined his values, we should step back and do the same. What is your legacy? How would you like to be remembered? Will you be spoken well of? Will you be remembered with love and respect? Will you be missed? I've learned that you cannot make someone love you. All you can do is be someone who can be loved. The rest is up to them. I've learned that no matter how much I care, some people just don't care back. I've learned that it takes years to build up trust, and only seconds to destroy it. I've learned that no matter how good a friend is, they're going to hurt you every once in a while, and you must forgive them for that. I've learned that it's not what you have in your life but who you have in your life that counts. I've learned that you should never ruin an apology with an excuse. I've learned that you can get by on charm for about 15 minutes. After that, you'd better know something. I've learned that you shouldn't compare yourself to the best others can do. I've learned that you can do something in an instant that will give you heartache for life. I've learned that it's taking me a long time to become the person I want to be. I've learned that you should always leave loved ones with loving words. It may be the last time you see them. I've learned that you can keep going long after you can't. I've learned that we are responsible for what we do, no matter how we feel. I've learned that either you control your attitude or it controls you. I've learned that regardless of how hot and steamy a relationship is at first, the passion fades and there had better be something else to take its place. I've learned that heroes are the people who do what has to be done when it needs to be done, regardless of the consequences. I've learned that money is a lousy way of keeping score. I've learned that my best friend and I can do anything or nothing and have the best time. I've learned that sometimes the people you expect to kick you when you're down will be the ones to help you get back up. I've learned that sometimes when I'm angry, I have the right to be angry, but that doesn't give me the right to be cruel. I've learned that true friendship continues to grow, even over the longest distance. Same goes for true love. I've learned that just because someone doesn't love you the way you want them to doesn't mean they don't love you with all they have. I've learned that maturity has more to do with what types of experiences you've had and what you've learned from them and less to do with how many birthdays you've celebrated. I've learned that you should never tell a child their dreams are unlikely or outlandish. Few things are more humiliating, and what a tragedy it would be if they believed it. I've learned that your family won't always be there for you. It may seem funny, but people you aren't related to can take care of you and love you and teach you to trust people again. Families aren't biological. I've learned that it isn't always enough to be forgiven by others. Sometimes you are to learn to forgive yourself. I've learned that no matter how bad your heart is broken, the world doesn't stop for your grief. I've learned that our background and circumstances may have influenced who we are, but we are responsible for who we become. I've learned that a rich person is not the one who has the most, but is one who needs the least. I've learned that just because two people are you, it doesn't mean they don't love each other. And just because they don't are you, it doesn't mean they do. I've learned that we don't have to change friends if we understand that friends change. I've learned that you shouldn't be so eager to find out a secret. It could change your life forever. I've learned that two people can look at the exact same thing and see something totally different. I've learned that no matter how you try to protect your children, they will eventually get hurt and you will hurt in the process. I've learned that even when you think you have no more to give, when a friend cries out to you, you will find the strength to help. I've learned that credentials on the wall do not make you a decent human being. I've learned that the people you care about most in life are taken from you too soon. I've learned that it's hard to determine where to draw the line between being nice and not hurting people's feelings, and standing up for what you believe. I've learned that people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. By Omar B. Washington. If you bring love, Joseph Campbell. At a certain moment in Nietzsche's life, the idea came to him of what he called the love of your fate. Whatever your fate is, whatever the heck happens, you say, this is what I need. It may look like a wreck, but go at it as though it were an opportunity, a challenge. If you bring love to that moment, not discouragement, you will find the strength is there. Any disaster that you can survive is an improvement in your character, your stature, and your life. What a privilege. This is when the spontaneity of your own nature will have a chance to flow. Then, when looking back at your life, you will see that the moments which seemed to be great failures followed by wreckage were the incidents that shaped the life you have now. You'll see that this is really true. Nothing can happen to you that is not positive. Even though it looks and feels at the moment like a negative crisis, it is not impossible as nothing. Stories take a certain goal of yours and double it. Or triple it. Or multiply it by 10. And then ask yourself, quite seriously, what you would have to do to achieve that new goal. I used this game recently with a friend who holds a position in sales. He came to see me because he was selling $100,000 worth of product each month, the most on his team, and wanted to somehow get to percent $140,000. I asked him to tell me what it would take for him to sell $200,000 worth of equipment each month. 2 million, he shouted. That's impossible. I'm leading the team already with $100,000, and nobody thought that could be done. What would have to do? I persisted. No, he said. You don't understand. I want to hit $140,000 a month, and even that is so hard that I don't know how I'll do it. Impossible is nothing stories. I finally told him the theory behind this game. If you seriously look at an outrageous goal, such as $200,000, it will open things up for you creatively that wouldn't have opened up if you stayed looking at $140,000. He nodded slowly and reluctantly agrees to play along for a while. Okay, he said. But remember, we're talking about something that's impossible. Fine. I said. But if your life depended on hitting $200,000 next month, what exactly would you do? He laughed and then started listing things as I wrote them down on a flip pad. After he got through the ridiculous ideas, like stealing other people's accounts and cooking the books, he began to think of more ideas. At first, it was hard. I'd have to be two places at once, he said. I'd have to make twice as many presentations as I'm making. I'd have to present to two clients at once. Then it hit him. All of a sudden, he got the idea that he might be able to stage a large presentation of his product with a number of clients in the room at one time. I could rent a room at a hotel and have 20 people in for coffee and donuts, and I could make a big deal out of it, he said. A number of other ideas came to him: ways to combine his cold calling with his travel time, ways to utilize email as a sales tool, how to use the administrative staff better. Idea after idea came to him while I wrote furiously on the pad. All of the ideas were a result of his thinking big. How would I sell $200,000 if I absolutely had to? He surpassed his goal of $140,000 the very next month.